What if Harry Potter had married Luna Lovegood instead of Ginny Weasley? Today we're diving into one of the most intriguing alternate timelines in the Harry Potter universe, exploring how this unexpected pairing could have changed everything we know about Harry's life after the Battle of Hogwarts. This isn't just about romance. It's about how two people who understood loss and saw the world differently could have built a life together that was truly extraordinary. Let's start by thinking about what actually connected Harry and Luna in the original story. These two characters shared something that very few others in the wizarding world could understand. They both could see thestrals, those skeletal winged horses that only become visible to those who have witnessed death and truly comprehended it. For Harry, this came from watching Cedric Diggory die in the graveyard. For Luna, it was the tragic loss of her mother in a magical experiment gone wrong when she was just 9 years old. This shared experience of death wasn't just a plot point. It was a fundamental connection between two souls who understood grief in a way their peers simply couldn't. Throughout the books, we see moments where Luna offers Harry a kind of comfort that others can't quite manage. She doesn't try to fix him or cheer him up with false optimism. She simply exists alongside him with an acceptance and understanding that's incredibly rare. Remember when Harry was feeling isolated and different because he could see the thestrals pulling the carriages to Hogwarts? It was Luna who sat with him, who made him feel less alone in that experience. She didn't treat him like he was broken or damaged. She treated him like someone who had simply seen more of the world's truth than others had. And there was something beautiful in that perspective. In our alternate timeline, let's imagine that after the Battle of Hogwarts, Harry finds himself struggling with what everyone else seems to handle so easily, moving on. The wizarding world wants to celebrate, to rebuild, to return to normal. But Harry has seen too much death, made too many impossible choices, and carries too much survivor's guilt to simply slip back into a normal life. Ginny, in this version, represents everything Harry wants to be able to feel: youthful, optimistic, forward-looking. But he can't shake the weight of everything that's happened. They try to rekindle what they had before, but Harry finds himself unable to be the person Ginny needs him to be. And Ginny, despite her strength and understanding, can't quite reach the depths of where Harry's mind goes in his darkest moments. The breaking point comes about 3 months after the battle. Harry and Ginny are at the Burrow for Sunday dinner, surrounded by the warmth and chaos of the Weasley family. Everyone is laughing, telling stories, passing dishes around the table. It should be perfect. It's everything Harry dreamed about during those long, dark nights hunting Horcruxes. But Harry feels like he's watching it all through glass, present in body, but fundamentally disconnected. When Ginny reaches for his hand under the table, he feels the gulf between them more acutely than ever. She's looking at the future with hope and excitement. He's still trapped in the past, unable to move forward, unable to pretend. Later that night, they take a walk around the orchard. The conversation is difficult, filled with long pauses and words neither of them want to say. Ginny tells him she can wait, that she understands he needs time to heal. Harry realizes that the kindest thing he can do is let her go now, rather than let her spend years waiting for him to become someone he might never be. They both cry. They hold each other, and they acknowledge that sometimes love isn't enough, that timing and circumstance matter, that needing different things doesn't diminish what they once had. Ginny is hurt, but she's also relieved in a way she doesn't fully understand yet. Harry feels guilty and sad, and also, unexpectedly, a small sense of relief that he no longer has to pretend to be okay. Enter Luna Lovegood. She returns to Hogwarts to complete her 7th year, the one that was stolen from her by Death Eaters in captivity in Malfoy Manor. Harry, now working with the Ministry to help restore order and track down remaining Death Eaters, finds himself visiting Hogwarts frequently. The castle has become a place of both comfort and pain for him, filled with ghosts of friends lost and battles fought. On one of these visits, he encounters Luna feeding the thestrals in the Forbidden Forest. She's talking to them in that dreamy way of hers, completely unself-conscious, completely herself. Harry watches her for a moment before she notices him. There's something mesmerizing about Luna's complete comfort with these creatures that most people fear or find disturbing. She's running her hands along a thestral's skeletal neck, murmuring observations about its wing structure and theorizing about its ability to find its way to any destination its rider truly needs to reach, not just wants to reach. When she finally looks up and sees Harry, her smile is warm, but not pitying. She doesn't ask how he's doing or express sympathy about his breakup with Ginny. news that's already spread through the wizarding world's efficient gossip network. Instead, she invites him to meet a new thestral foal that was born just after the battle ended. The foal is gangly and awkward, all oversized wings and uncertain steps. Luna explains that this one was born under particularly auspicious circumstances, during a lunar eclipse, which she believes might give it special properties, though she admits she has no evidence for this yet. She's planning to observe it closely as it grows. Harry finds himself relaxing in a way he hasn't in months. Luna doesn't need anything from him. She's not looking to him to be strong or brave or okay. She's simply sharing something she finds interesting with someone she thinks might appreciate it. They begin talking, really talking, in a way Harry hasn't been able to with anyone else. Luna doesn't ask him if he's okay, or tell him that time heals all wounds. She doesn't treat him like the chosen one or the savior of the wizarding world. She simply shares her own thoughts about loss, about her mother, about how the world looks different when you've seen death up close. She tells him that some people never understand, and that's okay. But for those who do understand, there's a kind of clarity that comes with it, an ability to see what really matters. Harry finds himself seeking out these conversations, these quiet moments with Luna where he doesn't have to pretend to be anything other than what he is. A young man trying to figure out how to live with everything he's experienced. Their friendship deepens over the following months. Harry starts timing his Hogwarts visits to coincide with Luna's free periods. They fall into a routine of walking the grounds together, sometimes talking about deep subjects like mortality and meaning, other times discussing Luna's various theories about magical creatures or Harry's struggles with auror training. Harry finds himself telling Luna things he hasn't told anyone else, like how he sometimes feels angry at Dumbledore for all the secrets and manipulations, or how he wakes up some mornings wishing he could just be normal, that he could trade all his fame and recognition for a chance to have grown up with his parents. Luna listens without judgment. She shares her own complicated feelings about her mother, about how much she loved her, but also how angry she sometimes feels that her mother's curiosity and risk-taking led to her death, leaving Luna alone with her father. She talks about the loneliness of seeing the world differently than everyone else, of being dismissed and mocked for her beliefs. But she also talks about the freedom that comes from caring less and less what other people think, how each time someone laughed at her theories or called her loony, it hurt a little less until eventually it barely hurt at all. She tells Harry that maybe that's what healing looks like, not forgetting or getting over things, but building up enough scar tissue that the wounds don't bleed as easily. The shift from friendship to something more happens gradually, so gradually that neither of them can pinpoint exactly when it changed. There's a moment during one of their walks when Harry realizes he's been looking forward to seeing Luna all week, that thoughts of their conversations have sustained him through difficult auror training exercises. There's an evening when Luna is studying in the library and realizes she's been reading the same paragraph over and over because she's thinking about something funny Harry said earlier, replaying the sound of his laugh in her mind. These small realizations accumulate, building toward an inevitable conclusion. The first kiss happens on a spring evening at the end of Luna's 7th year. They're sitting by the lake watching the giant squid's tentacles break the surface occasionally. Luna is theorizing about what the squid dreams about, whether aquatic magical creatures have the same sorts of dreams as humans, or if they dream in colors and sensations humans can't even comprehend. Harry is listening, watching the way the setting sun turns Luna's hair golden, the way her hands move expressively as she talks. Without really thinking about it, he reaches out and tucks a strand of hair behind her ear. Luna stops mid-sentence, turning to look at him. The moment stretches between them, full of possibility and a little bit of fear. Then Harry leans in, and Luna meets him halfway, and the kiss is soft and sweet and right in a way that makes Harry's chest ache. Afterward, they sit in comfortable silence, Luna's head resting on Harry's shoulder, watching the sun finish setting over the mountains. Neither of them feels the need to define what just happened or make declarations about the future. It simply is, and that's enough for now. This moment marks the beginning of a new chapter in both their lives, one where they'll navigate the complexities of building a relationship while still healing from their respective traumas, while figuring out who they are as individuals and who they might become together. Their relationship develops slowly, naturally without the dramatic intensity of Harry's previous romances. There's no Voldemort looming over them, no prophecy forcing Harry to push people away for their own safety. Instead, there's just two people who understand each other on a fundamental level, who can sit in comfortable silence or talk for hours about things both profound and absurd. Luna tells Harry about her plans to travel the world searching for magical creatures, and Harry finds himself captivated by her enthusiasm, her unwavering belief in the wondrous and strange. She makes him remember that magic isn't just about defense and fighting dark wizards. It's about wonder and discovery and seeing beauty in unexpected places. When Harry and Luna begin dating officially, it surprises almost everyone. The Weasleys are supportive, though there's an undeniable awkwardness at first, particularly with Ginny. But Ginny, being the remarkable person she is, eventually comes to understand that what Harry needs and what she needs are different things. She moves forward with her own life, throwing herself into Quidditch with renewed determination. There's a period of adjustment where things are tense, where family gatherings feel slightly strained, but time and distance help. Ginny starts dating other people, rediscovering parts of herself that got lost in the intensity of war and her relationship with Harry. She realizes she's been defining herself in relation to Harry Potter since she was 10 years old, and it's time to figure out who Ginny Weasley is on her own terms. Ron and Hermione are perhaps the most supportive of Harry and Luna's relationship. Having seen the way Luna affected Harry during their Horcrux hunt, the way her bizarre optimism and unshakable faith in goodness had helped keep them all going when everything seemed hopeless. Ron, in particular, surprises everyone with his enthusiasm for the relationship. He tells Harry that he's never seen him this relaxed, this genuinely himself. Hermione, always analytical, observes that Luna challenges Harry intellectually in ways that are good for him, pushing him to question his assumptions and consider alternative perspectives. She also notes that Harry seems to be processing his trauma more healthily since he started spending time with Luna, talking about difficult emotions rather than bottling them up. The four of them spend a lot of time together that first year. Ron and Hermione are engaged by this point, planning a wedding that's months away but already consuming much of Hermione's organizational energy. Luna helps with the planning in her own unique way, suggesting flowers that supposedly promote harmony and proposing a ceremony structure based on ancient magical binding rituals she's read about. Not all her suggestions are practical, but her creativity inspires some genuinely lovely touches that make the wedding feel more personal and meaningful. Harry serves as Ron's best man, and Luna is one of Hermione's bridesmaids, and the four of them being paired up for the ceremony feels natural and right. Harry's relationship with Luna changes him in ways both subtle and profound. She encourages him to question things he's always taken for granted, to look at the wizarding world's institutions and traditions with fresh eyes. Luna has never cared much for what other people think, and being with her helps Harry shed some of the weight of expectation that's been crushing him since he was 11 years old. He doesn't have to be the hero anymore. He doesn't have to have all the answers. He can just be Harry, flawed and uncertain and still figuring things out. One significant way this manifests is in Harry's approach to his Auror work. In the original timeline, Harry might have become a by-the-book Auror, following established protocols and working his way up through the ranks in a fairly conventional way. But Luna's influence pushes him to question the underlying assumptions of magical law enforcement. Why are certain creatures classified as dangerous when they're simply defending their territory? Why does the Ministry's response to dark magic focus almost exclusively on punishment, rather than understanding what drives people to dark magic in the first place? Why are certain magical practices banned when the evidence for their harm is questionable at best? These questions don't make Harry popular with all his colleagues. Some of the older Aurors view him as naive or insufficiently serious about the work. They think he's letting his fame go to his head, assuming he knows better than people who've been doing this work for decades. But Harry persists, arguing his positions carefully and backing them up with research and reasoning. He starts to build a reputation as an Auror who thinks outside the box, who achieves results through unconventional means. When a situation arises involving a supposedly dangerous creature attacking Muggles, Harry is the one who figures out that the creature isn't attacking, but trying to protect its eggs from poachers. His solution focuses on educating locals and establishing protected areas rather than destroying the creature, an approach that other Aurors might not have considered. Luna, for her part, finds in Harry someone who takes her seriously in a way few others ever have. He doesn't laugh at her theories or dismiss her ideas as nonsense. He's seen too much strangeness in his own life to be quick to judge what's possible and what isn't. When Luna wants to go searching for crumple-horned snorkax in Sweden, Harry doesn't try to talk her out of it or suggest more practical pursuits. He helps her plan the expedition, using his connections to secure permits and permissions, researching the region's magical creature populations to identify the most promising search areas. He even takes time off from his Auror training to accompany her on part of the expedition. They spend 2 weeks hiking through the Swedish wilderness, setting up observation posts and documenting every creature they encounter. They don't find any crumple-horned snorkax, but they do observe several species exhibiting behaviors that haven't been documented in the standard magizoology texts. Luna is thrilled, filling notebook after notebook with observations and sketches. Harry discovers he genuinely enjoys this kind of work, the patience and attention it requires, the way it engages his mind without the constant life-or-death pressure of Auror training. During this trip, they also have their first serious disagreement. It happens when they encounter what might be a new species of magical creature, something small and luminescent that Luna immediately wants to capture for further study. Harry argues that they should observe it in its natural habitat rather than disturbing it. Luna counters that they might never get another chance to study it closely, that capture wouldn't necessarily harm it if done carefully. The argument escalates, both of them stubborn and convinced they're right. Finally, exhausted and frustrated, they agree to compromise. They'll observe it for 3 days, documenting everything they can, and only attempt capture if they determine it would be safe for the creature. The 3 days of observation end up convincing Luna that Harry was right. The creature exhibits behaviors that clearly depend on its specific habitat, and capturing it would likely cause distress and might prevent them from understanding its true nature. She admits this to Harry openly, thanking him for pushing back on her initial impulse. Harry in turn acknowledges that Luna's passion and desire for close study is what drives real discovery, that his caution could just as easily prevent important breakthroughs. They both learn something about themselves and each other, that disagreement doesn't have to be destructive, that they can challenge each other and come out stronger for it. When they return from Sweden, their relationship feels more solid, tested, and proven. They've seen each other at their worst, tired and cranky and disagreeable, and they still want to be together. That's when Harry starts seriously thinking about the future, about what a life with Luna might look like. He imagines them traveling together, Luna pursuing her research while he figures out what kind of work truly fulfills him. He imagines a home filled with books and strange artifacts, with creatures both ordinary and rare. He imagines children who grow up learning to question everything, to think independently, to value curiosity and kindness. The vision is so clear and so appealing that it almost frightens him with its intensity. Luna is having similar thoughts, though characteristically she's less worried about them. She's never been one to overthink things or get anxious about the future. She knows she loves Harry, knows he loves her, and trusts that they'll figure out the details as they go. When Harry nervously brings up the subject of their future one evening, trying to gauge whether Luna sees them as a long-term thing or just enjoying the present, Luna laughs and tells him she's known since that first kiss by the lake that she wanted to spend her life with him. The certainty in her voice, the complete lack of doubt, settles something in Harry's chest. They decide to move in together about a year into their relationship. It's a practical decision in some ways. They're both paying rent on small separate flats and spending most of their free time together anyway. But it's also a statement, a commitment to building a shared life. They find a small cottage on the outskirts of a wizarding village, far enough from London to feel peaceful, but close enough to the ministry that Harry's commute isn't unreasonable. The cottage needs work. The thatching is thin in places and the garden is wildly overgrown, but they both see its potential immediately. Fixing up the cottage becomes a joint project that summer. Harry handles most of the structural repairs, using magic and some satisfying manual labor to shore up walls and replace rotting floorboards. Luna focuses on the garden, transforming it from an overgrown mess into a carefully planned ecosystem designed to attract various magical creatures. She plants flowers that bloom at different times of year, installs a small pond for water-dwelling creatures, and sets up feeding stations and shelter boxes. By the time they move in, the cottage feels truly like theirs, marked by both their efforts and their vision. Their first night in the cottage, They sit on the floor of the empty living room because their furniture hasn't arrived yet, eating takeaway Chinese food and drinking wine from mismatched mugs because they haven't unpacked the glasses. Luna leans against Harry, and he wraps an arm around her, and they sit in comfortable silence listening to the sounds of their new home settling around them. A bowtruckle has already taken up residence in the tree visible through the window, its tiny form silhouetted against the moonlight. Harry thinks about all the moments that led to this one, all the choices and chances and random circumstances that brought them together. He feels grateful in a way that makes his throat tight. Grateful not just for Luna, but for the life they're building, for the man he's becoming with her beside him. Living together brings a new intimacy to their relationship. They learn each other's rhythms and routines, the small habits and quirks that define daily life. Harry discovers that Luna talks to herself when she's working on a difficult problem, carrying on full conversations with invisible interlocutors. Luna learns that Harry has nightmares more often than he admits, waking silently and moving to the window to stare out at the night until he feels calm enough to try sleeping again. They figure out how to navigate these things together, Luna leaving Harry space to work through his nightmares in his own time while letting him know she's there if he needs her. Harry learning to give Luna the solitude she sometimes needs for her work without taking it personally. They also discover the joys of building a life together, the small domestic pleasures that Harry never really experienced growing up. Cooking meals together, Luna teaching Harry recipes she learned from her father, while Harry shares the few things he picked up from watching Aunt Petunia. Lazy Sunday mornings where they read in comfortable silence, Luna going through academic journals while Harry works his way through the stack of books he never had time for during his Hogwarts years. Evening walks around their property, watching the magical creatures Luna's garden is attracting. Marveling at the diversity of life thriving in the space they've created. Their sex life is tender and exploratory, marked by the same curiosity and acceptance that characterizes their relationship generally. Neither of them has a lot of experience. Harry's previous relationship with Cho was awkward and brief, and his time with Ginny was passionate but interrupted by war. Luna's romantic history is even more limited. But they approach intimacy the way they approach everything else, with honesty, communication, and a willingness to be vulnerable with each other. They learn what brings each other pleasure, what feels good and what doesn't, building a physical connection that deepens their emotional bond. About 2 years into living together, Harry proposes. He doesn't make a big production out of it, knowing Luna would probably find that uncomfortable. Instead, it happens naturally one evening while they're working in the garden together. Luna is explaining her latest theory about how certain magical plants might actually be semi-sentient, responding not just to care, but to the emotions of the people tending them. Harry is listening, watching her hands move through the soil, noting the smudge of dirt on her cheek. He's struck suddenly by how much he loves this woman, this brilliant, strange, wonderful person who sees magic in everything. The words come out before he fully thinks them through. "Luna, will you marry me?" Luna looks up from the plant she's tending, her expression serious. For a moment that feels much longer than it actually is. She doesn't say anything, just studies Harry's face. Then her smile breaks through like sunshine, radiant and unguarded. "Yes," she says simply. "Yes, I'll marry you, Harry Potter." They kiss there in the garden, kneeling in the dirt, surrounded by growing things and the soft sounds of evening creatures beginning their nightly activities. It's perfect in its simplicity, in its authenticity to who they are as people and as a couple. Planning the wedding is an interesting exercise in negotiation and compromise. Luna has very specific ideas about what she wants, most of them unconventional. Harry cares less about the details and more about making sure the day feels meaningful and includes the people they love. Hermione offers to help plan, her organizational skills perfectly suited to the task. She learns to filter Luna's more outlandish suggestions while finding ways to incorporate the spirit of what Luna wants in more practical forms. When Luna insists on Thestrals being present at the ceremony, Hermione figures out how to make it work logistically and safely. When Luna wants to get married at midnight under a full moon, Hermione convinces her that sunset would be almost as magical and more practical for their guests. The guest list is relatively small, just family and close friends. The Weasleys are all invited, of course, including Ginny. who by this point has a serious boyfriend of her own and is genuinely happy for Harry and Luna. Ron stands as Harry's best man, and Hermione is Luna's maid of honor. Neville, now teaching herbology at Hogwarts, is there with his girlfriend Hannah Abbott. Various DA members attend, people who fought alongside them and understand the bond forged through shared trauma and triumph. Xenophilius Lovegood cries through the entire ceremony, overwhelmed with joy at seeing his daughter so happy. Andromeda Tonks brings little Teddy, who at 4 years old is already showing signs of the metamorph magus abilities he inherited from his mother. The wedding itself is magical in the truest sense. It's held in a clearing in the Forbidden Forest, with special permission from Headmistress McGonagall. The Thestrals watch from the tree line, their presence a reminder of the shared understanding of death that first connected Harry and Luna. The ceremony incorporates traditional wizarding elements with Luna's unique touches, including a hand-fasting ritual with cords Luna wove herself from materials that supposedly have protective and binding properties. When they exchange vows, they speak from the heart rather than using traditional words. Harry talks about how Luna taught him that being broken doesn't mean being worthless, that scars can be beautiful, that there's still magic and wonder in the world if you know how to look for it. Luna talks about how Harry makes her feel seen and valued in a way no one else ever has. How his courage isn't just about facing dark wizards, but about facing each day with honesty and openness, despite everything he's been through. There are tears, laughter, and a palpable sense of joy throughout the ceremony. When they kiss as newly married partners, the Thestrals let out soft calls, and bioluminescent insects, Luna specifically invited to the ceremony, begin to glow, creating a canopy of soft light above the gathered witnesses. It's a moment of pure magic, unmarred by darkness or threat, a celebration of love and life and new beginnings. The reception that follows is equally unconventional, with dancing under the stars and food that ranges from traditional wizarding fare to exotic dishes Luna picked up during her travels. George contributes some of his more whimsical Weasley's Wizard Wheezes products, leading to unexpected hilarity throughout the evening. Ron's speech as best man is a highlight of the reception. He talks about the strange journey that brought them all to this point, about how he never would have predicted that Harry would end up with Luna, but how it makes perfect sense in retrospect. He tells stories about the Horcrux hunt, about the times Luna's seemingly random observations turned out to be exactly what they needed to hear. He jokes about how Luna once tried to convince him that his tactical skills would improve if he ate more Plimpies, and how he actually tried it for a week before admitting it wasn't working. The speech is funny and touching in equal measure, and it ends with Ron raising his glass and saying that if there's anyone who deserves happiness, it's Harry, and if there's anyone who can make sure he stays weird enough to actually enjoy life, it's Luna. The toast gets a huge laugh and enthusiastic applause. The honeymoon is a 3-week expedition to New Zealand, where Luna wants to study the magical fauna of the southern hemisphere. They hike through forests filled with creatures that don't exist anywhere else in the world, swim in hot springs heated by magical geothermal activity, and spend long nights under unfamiliar constellations. Harry falls more in love with Luna watching her work, seeing the meticulous care she brings to her observations, the respectful way she interacts with creatures, the childlike delight she takes in new discoveries. They make love under the stars, in their tent, while rain patters on the canvas, in a secluded beach cove where the water glows with magical bioluminescence. It's romantic and adventurous and exactly right for them. When they return home, they settle into married life with the same easy compatibility they brought to living together. The main difference is a deeper sense of permanence, a security in knowing they've made this commitment publicly and irrevocably. They start talking more seriously about children, about when they might want to start a family and what kind of parents they hope to be. Luna wants to wait until she's finished a major research project she's working on, a comprehensive study of thestral behavior and communication that she hopes will become the definitive work on the species. Harry supports this fully, in no rush himself, and recognizing the importance of Luna's work. During this period, Harry's career continues to evolve. He's been an Auror for several years now, and while he's good at the work, he's increasingly feeling that it's not quite the right fit. He's too empathetic, too interested in understanding why people turn to dark magic rather than simply stopping them. He starts to dread certain aspects of the job, particularly the arrests and interrogations. He's seen too much darkness, caused too much even when necessary, and he finds himself wanting to build rather than fight, to prevent rather than punish. After much soul-searching and many conversations with Luna, he makes the decision to leave active Auror duty and transition to a training role. The decision surprises many people, including some of his colleagues who see it as a step backward or a waste of his talents. But Harry knows it's the right choice. He's always been good at teaching. His time leading the DA proved that, and he's passionate about changing how Aurors are trained. He wants to create Aurors who think critically, who question orders when necessary, who understand that their job is to protect people, not just enforce laws. His new role gives him the platform to do exactly that. He starts by completely overhauling the empathy and ethics components of training, bringing in guest speakers who've been affected by Auror actions, both positively and negatively, and requiring trainees to grapple with complex ethical scenarios that don't have clear right answers. One of his most controversial innovations is mandatory creature interaction training. Every Auror trainee must spend a month working directly with magical creatures, learning patience, observation, and respect for beings that communicate and think differently than humans. Luna consults on the program design, helping Harry select appropriate creatures and design meaningful learning experiences. The program is met with skepticism at first, with many questioning what creature care has to do with catching dark wizards. But the results speak for themselves. Trainees who go through the program show improved observational skills, better emotional regulation, and more creative problem-solving abilities. They learn to look beyond surface appearances and first assumptions, skills that prove invaluable in actual Auror work. Harry's training programs start to gain a reputation, and soon other magical law enforcement agencies are sending observers to learn from his methods. He's invited to speak at conferences, to consult on training programs in other countries. It's strange for Harry, being sought out for his expertise rather than his fame, being valued for what he knows rather than what he did. It feels more authentic, more earned, and he thrives in this new role. Luna teases him that he's becoming establishment, a respected figure in magical education. Harry counters that he's subverting from within, changing the system one trainee at a time. They're both right. Luna's career is flourishing as well. Her thestral study is groundbreaking, documenting behaviors and communication patterns that no one has previously recorded. She discovers that thestrals have a complex social structure, with different individuals taking on specific roles within the herd. She documents their incredible navigation abilities, proving through careful experimentation that they can find their way to destinations based not on physical location, but on emotional need. A thestral can take its rider not to where they want to go, but to where they need to be, even if the rider doesn't consciously know what that place is. This discovery has profound implications for search and rescue operations, and Luna's work leads to thestrals being employed in new ways by the ministry. The research also takes an emotional toll. Studying thestrals means immersing herself in themes of death and loss, in creatures that exist on the boundary between life and death. There are days when Luna comes home quiet and withdrawn, weighed down by the heaviness of her work. Harry learns to recognize these moods, to offer comfort without pushing her to talk before she's ready. Sometimes she needs distraction, silly jokes, or a mindless evening watching Muggle television. Other times she needs to process out loud, talking through her feelings and observations until she's worked through whatever is troubling her. Harry becomes skilled at reading which kind of support she needs, at being present without being overbearing. Their third year of marriage brings the conversation about children back to the forefront. Luna's thestral study is nearing completion, and she's starting to think about her next project. They're both in their mid-20s now, settled in their careers and their life together. When Luna brings up the idea of starting a family, Harry feels a complex mix of emotions: excitement, fear, hope, and deep uncertainty. He wants children, has wanted them for years, but he's terrified of being a parent. What if he doesn't know how? What if he's terrible at it? What if he passes on his trauma to his kids, damages them in ways he can't predict or prevent? Luna listens to his fears with characteristic patience. Then she points out that the fact he's worried about these things probably means he'll be a good parent. Bad parents don't worry about whether they're doing it right. They talk about the kind of parents they want to be, the values they want to instill, the childhood experiences they want to give their kids. Harry is adamant that his children will never feel unwanted or unloved, that they'll grow up knowing they're cherished exactly as they are. Luna wants their children to feel free to explore and question, to develop their own interests and perspectives without pressure to conform. They decide to start trying, and Luna becomes pregnant a few months later. The pregnancy is both wondrous and anxiety-inducing. Harry is amazed by the physical reality of a baby growing inside Luna, the way her body changes to accommodate this new life. He's tender and attentive, constantly checking that she's comfortable and has everything she needs. Luna finds his hovering endearing if occasionally excessive. She's approached pregnancy with her typical lack of concern for conventional wisdom, consulting ancient texts and her father's library for magical pregnancy lore, while also seeing a healer for regular checkups. The pregnancy isn't easy. Luna experiences severe nausea for the first few months, barely able to keep food down. Harry feels helpless watching her suffer, wishing he could take on some of the burden. He makes endless cups of ginger tea, holds her hair back when she's sick, and reads to her when she's too exhausted to do anything but lie in bed. Luna, even in her misery, maintains her sense of humor. She jokes that clearly their baby has inherited Harry's talent for dramatic entrances, making its presence known in the most disruptive way possible. As the pregnancy progresses and Luna starts to feel better, they begin preparing for the baby's arrival. They turn one of the spare rooms in their cottage into a nursery, painting the walls a soft yellow that Luna insists will promote calm and creativity. Harry builds a crib with his own hands, wanting to create something tangible for his child, something that will last. Luna decorates the room with mobiles made of feathers and crystals, with drawings of magical creatures. With soft blankets, she knits herself during the long evenings of her third trimester. They debate names endlessly. Harry wants to honor people they've lost, but Luna gently pushes back on this tendency. She suggests that their child should have a name that's theirs alone, not a weight of expectation and memory. They compromise. They'll choose first names that feel right for their child, and middle names that honor the people they've loved and lost. When the baby is born, a daughter with a surprisingly loud cry and a shock of dark hair, they name her Pandora Lily Potter. Pandora after Luna's mother, giving her a first name that's a tribute but also distinctly her own. Lily as a middle name, honoring Harry's mother but in a position that feels less loaded with expectation. Parenthood transforms them both in ways they didn't anticipate. Harry discovers reserves of patience and tenderness he didn't know he possessed. The all-consuming need to protect and nurture this tiny person taps into something deep and primal. He's surprised by how much he loves the mundane aspects of baby care, the feeding and changing and soothing. There's something healing about being able to give his daughter everything he never had, about breaking the cycle of neglect and trauma that marked his own childhood. When Pandora looks at him with complete trust and love, Harry feels something in his chest unlock, a piece of healing he didn't know he needed. Luna takes to motherhood with her characteristic unconventional approach. She talks to Pandora constantly, narrating everything she does and sharing her observations about the world. She has no patience for the idea that babies can't understand complex concepts, so she discusses her research, current events, philosophical questions, everything. Harry sometimes worries this might be confusing or overwhelming for Pandora, but their daughter seems to thrive on the constant stream of words and ideas. She's an alert, curious baby, tracking movements and sounds with intense focus. They approach parenting as a team, splitting responsibilities based on their strengths and preferences, rather than traditional gender roles. Harry handles most of the night wakings as he's been an insomniac since the war and is often awake anyway. Luna manages most of the feeding, as she's breastfeeding and also has strong opinions about introducing Pandora to various foods and flavors early. They both do everything else, changing nappies, giving baths, playing, reading stories. Their home becomes a warm cocoon of family life, sometimes chaotic but always filled with love. As Pandora grows from infant to toddler, her personality begins to emerge. She's quiet and observant, more likely to study a situation carefully before engaging than to rush in impulsively. She inherits Luna's dreamy quality, often seeming lost in thought or distracted by things others can't see. She also inherits Harry's intensity, focusing on things that interest her with single-minded determination. Her first word is bird, pointing at the owls that frequent their property. Her first magical sign comes when she's 18 months old and angry about being put down for a nap, causing all the mobiles in her room to spin wildly. Harry and Luna continue balancing their careers with parenting. Luna cuts back on fieldwork significantly during Pandora's early years, focusing more on writing and analysis that can be done from home. Harry's training schedule is demanding but relatively predictable, allowing him to be present for important moments and maintain an active role in Pandora's daily life. They're fortunate to have help when needed. Molly Weasley is delighted to babysit, and Xenophilius is a doting grandfather who loves taking Pandora on adventures that usually involve searching for creatures in his overgrown garden. When Pandora is 3, Luna becomes pregnant again. This pregnancy is easier than the first, perhaps because Luna knows what to expect, or perhaps just because every pregnancy is different. They decide not to find out the baby's sex in advance, wanting to be surprised. Pandora is fascinated by her mother's growing belly, talking to the baby and sharing her toys with it. She seems to understand on some level that a sibling is coming, though Harry's not sure she fully grasps what that will mean. Their son is born on a stormy autumn night, arriving quickly after Luna's water breaks. They barely make it to St. Mungo's in time, and Harry finds himself coaching Luna through labor in the hospital corridor because they can't get her to a delivery room fast enough. It's chaotic and scary and incredible all at once. When the baby finally emerges, red-faced and wailing, Harry cuts the cord with shaking hands, overwhelmed by the reality of his son, his family, the life he's somehow managed to build. They name him Newt Sirius Potter, honoring both Luna's love of Newt Scamander and magical creatures, and Harry's godfather. The name fits him from the beginning. Even as an infant, Newt is fascinated by living things, calming immediately when taken outside, tracking birds and insects with his eyes. Unlike Pandora's quiet observation, Newt's interest in the world is more active, more hands-on. He wants to touch everything, to examine it up close, to understand through direct interaction. Parenting 2 children is exponentially more complex than parenting 1. The logistics alone are challenging, and Harry and Luna have to develop new systems and strategies to manage everything. Pandora struggles initially with the adjustment, used to having her parents' full attention, and now having to share it with a demanding baby brother. There are tantrums and regressions, moments when Harry and Luna look at each other in exhausted desperation, wondering how other people make this look so easy. But they figure it out, finding their rhythm as a family of 4. Pandora discovers she actually likes being a big sister once she adjusts to the idea, enjoying teaching Newt things and showing him her favorite toys. Harry and Luna tag team even more than before, each taking primary responsibility for one child when things get overwhelming. They lower their standards for housekeeping and meal quality, accepting that this phase of life is about survival and connection rather than perfection. Their home is messier, noisier, and more chaotic than ever before, but it's also more full, more alive. Luna returns to more active fieldwork once Newt is a bit older, taking trips for her research while Harry manages the home front. Harry discovers he actually enjoys these periods of solo parenting, the challenge of keeping everything running smoothly, the intense bonding time with his kids. When Luna returns from her trips, she brings stories and specimens, often things the kids find absolutely fascinating. Pandora is especially interested in her mother's work, asking endless questions about the creatures Luna studies. As the children grow, Harry and Luna's parenting philosophy becomes more evident. They encourage their children to question everything, to think independently, to value kindness and curiosity over conformity and tradition. When Pandora, at age 5, announces she can see creatures that no one else can see, creatures that might not technically exist according to standard texts, Harry doesn't dismiss her. He remembers his own childhood, being told his experiences weren't real, being gaslit about magic itself. He tells Pandora that just because something can't be proven doesn't mean it isn't real, and that some of the most important truths are the ones that can't be easily measured or quantified. Luna takes this as an opportunity to teach Pandora about the difference between observation and imagination, between what we can verify and what we believe. But she does it without dismissing Pandora's experiences, instead helping her develop tools to examine and document what she's seeing. If Pandora's creatures are real, Luna wants her to be able to prove it. If they're not, that's okay too. Imagination and creativity are valuable. Either way, the process of careful observation and analysis will serve Pandora well. Newt, meanwhile, is developing into a boisterous, affectionate child who loves physical activity and hands-on learning. He's not as academically inclined as his sister, struggling with sitting still and focusing on abstract concepts. But put him in the garden or near animals, and he becomes intensely focused and capable. He has an almost intuitive understanding of creatures, able to calm scared animals and coax shy ones into interaction. Harry recognizes that his son's learning style is different from Pandora's, and makes sure to provide opportunities for the kinds of experiences that help Newt thrive. Both children grow up surrounded by the Weasley extended family, frequent visitors to the burrow where there are always cousins to play with. Ron and Hermione have 2 children by this point, Rose and Hugo, who are close in age to Pandora and Newt. The 4 cousins are thick as thieves, getting into the kinds of trouble that makes their parents nostalgic for their own childhoods. George's children are older, already showing their father's talent for mischief and invention. Ginny, who eventually married a former Quidditch teammate, has a son who's obsessed with flying. The Potter Lovegood children fit into this extended family seamlessly, adding their own unique qualities to the mix. When Pandora turns 8, Luna becomes pregnant again, much to everyone's surprise. Harry and Luna had thought they were done having children, content with their family of 4. But life, as Luna often points out, has its own plans. This pregnancy is the hardest yet, perhaps because Luna is older, perhaps because chasing 2 active children while pregnant is exhausting. She's put on bed rest for the final month, much to her frustration. Harry takes leave from work to manage everything, supported by an army of friends and family who bring meals, take the older children for playdates, and keep Luna company during her enforced rest. Their daughter, Aurora Molly Potter, is born 2 weeks early but healthy. She's a tiny thing compared to her siblings' birth weights, but what she lacks in size she makes up for in personality. Aurora is loud from the beginning, making her preferences known and demanding attention. As she grows, it becomes clear she's inherited her father's Gryffindor traits, bold and impulsive where her siblings are more cautious and contemplative. She hero worships Pandora and drives Newt to distraction with her insistence on being included in everything he does. Parenting 3 children, especially with the age gaps, requires even more juggling. Harry and Luna are older now, in their mid-30s, and they feel it in the sleepless nights and endless energy required. But there's also a confidence that comes with experience, a knowledge that they've done this before and survived. They're more relaxed with Aurora than they were with Pandora, less anxious about every milestone and decision. They know that children are resilient, that small mistakes won't cause lasting damage, that love and attention matter more than perfect parenting. The Potter Lovegood household is unlike any other in the wizarding world. It's filled with strange artifacts from Luna's expeditions, creatures both common and rare, and an atmosphere of constant curiosity and wonder. Harry builds an extension onto their cottage that's essentially a magical creature sanctuary, where Luna rehabilitates injured animals and studies behavior patterns. The children grow up understanding that normal is relative and that the world is far stranger and more wonderful than most people realize. They learn to question everything, to think independently, to value kindness and curiosity over conformity and tradition. Meals at the Potter Lovegood home are lively affairs, with conversation ranging from the mundane to the profound. One night they might discuss what happened at school or work. The next they're debating the ethical implications of memory modification or whether certain magical creatures might be sentient in ways wizards don't recognize. Harry loves these dinners, loves the way his children's minds work, the questions they ask, the connections they make. It's everything he never had growing up, and he's fiercely grateful for it. The children's education is a combination of traditional and unconventional. They attend a small local magical school for primary education, but Harry and Luna supplement extensively at home. Luna teaches them about magical creatures, taking them on field observations and teaching them proper documentation techniques. Harry teaches them defensive magic, but frames it within broader discussions of ethics and when magic should and shouldn't be used. They learn Muggle subjects too, something many pure-blood families neglect. Luna believes understanding both magical and non-magical approaches to knowledge creates more complete thinkers. As Pandora approaches her 11th birthday and her Hogwarts letter, Harry finds himself grappling with complicated emotions. He's excited for her, knowing how much she'll love learning magic in a more structured way, how many opportunities Hogwarts will offer. But he's also anxious, remembering his own Hogwarts experiences, the danger and drama and pain mixed in with the wonder and friendship. He wants to protect her from all of it, to keep her safe in their little cottage forever. But he knows that's not what Pandora needs. She needs to find her own path, make her own friends, have her own adventures. Luna handles his anxiety with patient amusement. She reminds him that Pandora is not Harry, that Hogwarts is different now than it was during the wars, that their daughter is capable and smart and will be fine. She also points out that Harry's protective instincts, while understandable, can't dictate how they parent. They have to trust that they've given Pandora the tools she needs, and then let her use them. It's a hard lesson for Harry, learning to step back, but he knows Luna's right. Pandora's Hogwarts sorting is a family event. Harry takes the day off work, and they all go to Diagon Alley to get her school things. It's strange being back in those familiar shops, seeing the wonder in Pandora's eyes as she experiences things for the first time that Harry takes for granted. They have lunch at the Leaky Cauldron, where Tom the bartender makes a fuss over Harry Potter's daughter. Pandora handles the attention with grace, politely answering questions but clearly ready to move on. She's used to her father being famous but has no interest in fame herself. On the platform at King's Cross, Harry struggles to keep his emotions in check. He hugs Pandora tightly, tells her to write often, reminds her that she can always come home if she needs to. Luna's goodbye is quieter, a murmured conversation Harry can't quite hear. When Pandora boards the train and finds a compartment, waving at them through the window, Harry feels his throat tighten. His little girl going off into the world. The train pulls away and Luna takes Harry's hand, squeezing gently. "She'll be fine," Luna says. "Better than fine. She'll be wonderful." Harry nods, not quite trusting his voice, knowing Luna's right but still feeling the ache of this transition. Pandora is sorted into Ravenclaw, which surprises no one. Her first letters home are full of enthusiasm about her classes, her housemates, the library. She's made friends with a small group of similarly bookish students, and she seems happy. Harry reads each letter multiple times, looking for any sign that she's struggling or unhappy. But there's nothing. She's thriving, exactly as Luna predicted. It's a relief and also, strangely, a little bit sad. His daughter doesn't need him the way she used to. She's becoming her own person, separate from him and Luna. It's what they wanted, what they raised her to do, but it still hurts in a bittersweet way. The house feels quieter without Pandora, even with Newt and Aurora still at home. The dynamic shifts, with Newt stepping into the role of oldest child present, taking it seriously in his own way. He's more helpful around the house, more patient with Aurora's antics. Harry watches his son growing up, becoming more mature and capable, and feels the same complex mix of pride and loss. This is what parenting is, he realizes. A slow process of preparing your children to leave, of giving them roots and wings, of loving them enough to let them go. When Newt gets his Hogwarts letter 2 years later, the experience is different. Harry's been through it once now, so the emotions are less raw. Newt is excited to join his sister, though he's also nervous about the academic demands. He's not the student Pandora is, and Harry makes sure Newt knows that's okay. There are many ways to be smart, many ways to succeed. Newt's practical skills and emotional intelligence are just as valuable as academic achievement. Newt seems reassured by this, heading off to Hogwarts with more confidence. Newt is sorted into Hufflepuff, which is perfect for him. He finds his place in a house that values hard work and loyalty, surrounded by students who appreciate his kindness and hands-on approach to learning. His letters home are less frequent and less detailed than Pandora's were, but they're warm and cheerful. He's clearly happy, particularly enjoying Care of Magical Creatures class, where Professor Hagrid takes him under his wing. Harry loves hearing about Newt bonding with Hagrid, two gentle souls who understand creatures in instinctive ways. With both older children at Hogwarts, Harry and Luna have more time for just themselves and Aurora. It's almost like having an only child, and Aurora soaks up the attention. She's 7 now, full of energy and opinions, keeping them both on their toes. Harry finds himself cherishing this time, knowing how quickly it will pass. Before he knows it, Aurora will be heading to Hogwarts too, and he and Luna will be empty nesters. But that's still years away. For now, they settle into a new rhythm, their lives shaped by Hogwarts terms and holidays. The house is raucous when all the children are home, quieter during term time. Harry and Luna take advantage of this, going on dates again, taking short trips together, reconnecting as a couple after years of being primarily parents. Their relationship has deepened over the years, marked by shared experiences and mutual growth. They're not the same people they were when they married, but they've grown in the same direction, supporting each other's evolution. Luna's career has reached new heights. Her work on magical creatures has influenced policy throughout the magical world, leading to better protection for endangered species and more humane treatment of dangerous creatures. She's published several books, all bestsellers in their field. She's won awards, given lectures, been offered prestigious positions at various institutions. Through it all, she remains fundamentally herself. Luna, dreamy and brilliant and utterly unconcerned with status or acclaim. She pursues her work because she loves it, because she's curious, because she believes magical creatures deserve to be understood and protected. Harry's training programs have transformed horror education, not just in Britain, but internationally. His methods have been adopted by law enforcement agencies around the world, creating a new generation of horrors who are more thoughtful, more ethical, more effective. He's proud of this legacy, of knowing that his influence will continue long after he's gone. But he's also ready for the next chapter. He's been doing this work for nearly 2 decades, and while he still finds it meaningful, he's starting to think about what comes next. He and Luna talk about this during their conversations, imagining different futures. Maybe Harry will write, documenting his experiences and philosophy of magical law enforcement for future generations. Maybe he'll shift into consulting, helping reform criminal justice systems in the magical world. Maybe he'll do something completely different, pursuing interests he's never had time for. The uncertainty doesn't bother him the way it might have when he was younger. He trusts that the right path will become clear when the time comes. As Aurora grows older, her magical abilities manifest strongly. She's naturally talented, powerful in ways that remind Harry of himself at that age. But unlike Harry, who came to magic late and desperate, Aurora has been raised with magic all around her, comfortable and confident in her abilities. When her letter finally arrives, she's ecstatic, counting down the days until she can join her siblings at Hogwarts. Harry watches her excitement with a smile, remembering his own anticipation before first year. So much has changed since then, and yet the magic of Hogwarts remains the same. Aurora is sorted into Gryffindor, surprising absolutely no one. She throws herself into school life with characteristic enthusiasm, trying out for the Quidditch team as a second year and making it as a chaser. Her letters home are full of adventures and minor disasters, reminding Harry strongly of his own school years. He finds himself writing back with advice and encouragement, drawing on his own experiences to help her navigate challenges. It's satisfying, being able to give his daughter what no one could give him, guidance from someone who understands. With all 3 children at Hogwarts, Harry and Luna find themselves in a strange new phase of life. The house is quiet, almost too quiet. They've spent over a decade with their lives centered around their children, and now suddenly they have space and time that's just for them. It's an adjustment, figuring out who they are as a couple without the constant demands of parenting. They take up new hobbies, travel more extensively, reconnect with friends they've seen less of during the busy years of child rearing. Luna starts a new major research project, a comprehensive study of magical creature communication across species. It's ambitious work that will take years to complete, involving travel to every continent and collaboration with researchers worldwide. Harry supports her fully, joining her on some expeditions while maintaining his own work and responsibilities. They're partners in the truest sense, each supporting the other's dreams and ambitions while maintaining their own identities and pursuits. Harry does eventually start writing, beginning with a memoir about his experiences during the war. It's difficult work, dredging up painful memories and examining them honestly. But Luna encourages him, reading drafts and offering feedback, helping him find the balance between honesty and respect for those who didn't survive to tell their own stories. The book, when it's finally published, is a sensation. It's not what people expect Harry Potter's triumphant war story. Instead, it's a meditation on trauma, on the cost of violence even when necessary, on the complexity of heroism. It's honest about his struggles, his mistakes, his ongoing process of healing. Critics praise its vulnerability and depth. Survivors of the war find comfort in knowing they're not alone in their continued struggles. The book's success leads to speaking engagements and more writing opportunities. Harry discovers he actually enjoys writing, the way it forces him to examine his thoughts and experiences more deeply, the way it allows him to communicate ideas that are difficult to express in person. He starts working on a second book, this one about reforming magical law enforcement, drawing on his years of training experience. It's more practical than his memoir, but it's still infused with his philosophy about ethics, empathy, and the importance of questioning authority. As their children progress through Hogwarts, Harry and Luna are actively involved without being overbearing. They attend Quidditch matches to watch Aurora play, celebrate Pandora's academic achievements, support Newt through his struggles with theoretical subjects. They're present and engaged, but they also trust their children to handle most things on their own. It's a delicate balance, being available without being intrusive, and they don't always get it right. But their children know they're loved, that they can come to their parents with anything, and that's what matters most. Pandora's Hogwarts years are marked by academic excellence and artistic development. She spends hours in the library, researching obscure topics that interest her. She also develops her artistic talents, creating detailed illustrations of magical creatures that combine scientific accuracy with artistic beauty. By her 7th year, she's planning to pursue a career combining art and magizoology, creating educational materials that make magical creature information more accessible and engaging. Harry is so proud he could burst, watching his daughter find her passion and pursue it with confidence. Newt struggles more academically, but he excels in practical subjects. His professors note his exceptional talent with creatures and plants, his intuitive understanding of living systems. He's popular with his peers, known for being kind and helpful, always willing to tutor classmates who are struggling. In his 6th year, he announces his intention to become a healer, specifically wanting to work with curse damage and magical injuries. He's seen the lingering effects of dark magic on war survivors, heard his parents talk about the importance of healing, and wants to contribute to that work. Harry supports this fully, proud of his son's compassion and determination. Aurora is the most like Harry in temperament, bold and sometimes reckless, with a strong sense of justice. She gets into trouble occasionally, usually for standing up to bullies or challenging unfair rules. Harry has to have some difficult conversations with her about picking her battles and the difference between bravery and recklessness. But he also understands where she's coming from, recognizes his own younger self in her actions. He tries to guide her without crushing her spirit, teaching her to channel her impulses in productive ways. The Potter Lovegood children are close despite their different personalities and interests. They look out for each other at Hogwarts, the older siblings keeping an eye on the younger ones without being obvious about it. They have their own traditions, their own inside jokes, their own ways of communicating that exclude even their parents. Harry watches them together and feels that his greatest achievement isn't defeating Voldemort or reforming Auror training. It's this: 3 healthy, happy, kind children who love each other and are growing into remarkable adults. As Pandora approaches graduation, Harry finds himself grappling with another transition. His first child, an adult, heading out into the world permanently. It's different from sending her to Hogwarts, more final somehow. Pandora has her plans, her ambitions, her own life taking shape. She doesn't need her parents the way she once did. At her graduation ceremony, Harry cries openly, not even trying to hide it. Luna holds his hand, her own eyes misty. They're so proud and so sad and so grateful all at once. Pandora moves to London to pursue her career, taking a small flat near Diagon Alley. She works for a publisher of magical creature texts, creating illustrations while also building her own portfolio of artwork. She's successful almost immediately, her unique style, combining scientific precision with artistic vision, filling a real need in the field. She starts getting commissions from researchers and institutions, her reputation growing. Harry and Luna visit her regularly, taking her to dinner, admiring her work, marveling at the adult she's become. 2 years later, Newt graduates and heads to St. Mungo's for healer training. It's intensive and demanding, but Newt thrives under the structure and purpose. He writes home less frequently, busy with his studies and clinical rotations. But when he does write, it's clear he's found his calling. He's particularly interested in the psychological aspects of healing, how trauma and curse damage interact, how to treat the whole person rather than just their physical symptoms. He draws on his mother's creature work, on his father's understanding of trauma, on his own intuitions about care and healing. He's developing an approach that's distinctly his own, and his supervisors notice. He's marked as someone to watch, a healer who will make real contributions to the field. Aurora's Hogwarts years are more turbulent. She's talented and passionate, but also impulsive and sometimes defiant. She gets detention regularly, usually for good reasons, standing up for younger students or challenging outdated rules. She makes the Quidditch team as a second year and becomes captain by sixth year, known for her aggressive playstyle and inspiring leadership. She's not the student Pandora was, but she has her own strengths, and her teachers recognize her potential even when they're exasperated by her behavior. In her seventh year, Aurora becomes involved in student activism, pushing for various reforms at Hogwarts. She wants more mental health support for students, more diverse curriculum options, updated policies around creature welfare. She organizes petitions and protests, makes impassioned speeches at student forums. McGonagall is torn between annoyance at the disruption and pride at seeing students engage thoughtfully with how their school is run. Harry and Luna fully support Aurora's activism, proud that she's using her voice and passion constructively. Harry in particular recognizes the value of questioning authority and fighting for change. Having done plenty of that himself as a student, Aurora graduates with solid, if not spectacular, grades, immediately declaring her intention to work for the Department of Mysteries. She's fascinated by the unknowable, by the boundaries of magical knowledge. She wants to study death and time and thought, the fundamental mysteries of existence. It's ambitious and a little scary, and Harry can't help but worry. The Department of Mysteries is dangerous, full of things that aren't fully understood. But he also knows Aurora well enough to know that trying to talk her out of it would be pointless. She has to follow her own path, even if it's one that makes her parents nervous. With all three children launched into their adult lives, Harry and Luna enter a new phase. They're in their 50s now, still healthy and active, but definitely feeling their age. They have more time for each other than they've had in decades, and they use it well. They travel extensively, Luna pursuing her research while Harry documents his observations and works on more writing projects. They visit their children regularly, maintaining close relationships while respecting their independence. They're not just parents anymore. They're also individuals with their own interests and pursuits, and the balance feels right. Luna's comprehensive study of magical creature communication is finally published after nearly a decade of work. It's a massive tome, over 1,000 pages, that immediately becomes the definitive text in its field. The book synthesizes research from hundreds of sources with Luna's own observations, presenting a framework for understanding how different species communicate and what that reveals about consciousness and intelligence. It's groundbreaking work that forces the magical community to reconsider fundamental assumptions about which creatures are capable of complex thought and feeling. The book wins multiple awards and establishes Luna as one of the preeminent magical researchers of her generation. Harry's second book, on reforming magical law enforcement, is also well received. It becomes required reading in Auror training programs worldwide and sparks conversations about criminal justice reform throughout the magical world. Harry is invited to consult with governments and institutions, helping them reshape their approaches to magical law enforcement. He's selective about which opportunities he accepts, only working with organizations that are genuinely committed to reform, rather than those seeking his name for credibility. His work in this area becomes his primary focus in his 50s, traveling to implement training programs and advise on policy reforms. Their grandchildren start arriving when Harry and Luna are in their mid-50s. Pandora marries a fellow artist, a wizard who creates moving magical paintings. Their first child, a daughter, is born 2 years later. Harry holds his granddaughter for the first time and is overwhelmed by the same fierce love he felt when his own children were born, but different somehow, once removed but still powerful. Luna watches him with his granddaughter and smiles. Seeing the man she fell in love with, older now but still fundamentally himself, still capable of wonder and deep feeling. Newt marries a fellow healer, and they have twin sons within a few years of Pandora's daughter. The twins are a handful, energetic and mischievous, keeping everyone on their toes. Family gatherings become louder and more chaotic, full of young children and the particular kind of exhausted happiness that comes with that phase of life. Harry and Luna are hands-on grandparents when needed, but also careful to respect their children's parenting choices and boundaries. They offer help without being intrusive, presence without pressure. Aurora takes longer to settle down, focused on her career with the Department of Mysteries. When she does eventually partner up, it's with a fellow unspeakable, someone who shares her fascination with fundamental magical mysteries. They have one child, a daughter who shows signs of extremely powerful, intuitive magic from a young age. Aurora approaches parenting with characteristic intensity, determined to support her daughter's gifts while also giving her as normal a childhood as possible. It's a challenging balance, and Aurora often turns to her parents for advice, grateful for their wisdom and experience. The Potter Lovegood grandchildren grow up knowing their grandparents' story. The whole story, not just the sanitized version taught in history of magic classes. They know about the war, about trauma and loss, about how their grandparents built a life together despite and because of everything they'd been through. They grow up surrounded by books and creatures, by art and activism, by the message that being different is valuable and that there are many ways to live a meaningful life. They're weird kids, all of them, in the best possible way. They're curious and kind and unafraid to question things. Exactly what Harry and Luna hoped for. As Harry and Luna enter their 60s, they begin to slow down, not dramatically, but noticeably. Travel becomes more tiring, late nights less appealing. They start thinking about legacy, about what they'll leave behind. Luna's body of research is already substantial, texts and papers that will influence magical creature studies for generations. Harry's work reforming Auror training has created systemic change that will outlast him. But their real legacy, the one they're most proud of, is their children and grandchildren, the family they built, the love they shared and passed on. They spend more time at home. In the cottage they've lived in for decades. The place is full of memories, every room holding stories. The garden Luna created is mature now, a thriving ecosystem that attracts creatures from miles around. Harry keeps meaning to fix various things that are aging and wearing, but he finds himself procrastinating, reluctant to change things that have become familiar and comfortable. Luna doesn't mind the aging house, seeing beauty in the wear and patina of time. Their days develop a comfortable rhythm. Mornings are for individual projects, Luna in her study working on papers or reviewing research, Harry in his office writing or consulting on various projects. Afternoons are for each other, walks around the property, tending the garden, long conversations over tea. Evenings are quiet, reading or listening to music, occasionally receiving visitors, but mostly just being together. It's peaceful in a way their younger lives never were, and they're both grateful for it. Harry's nightmares, which plagued him for decades, have finally become rare. He still has them occasionally, particularly during times of stress or around significant anniversaries. But they don't have the same power they once did. Luna has helped him develop strategies for managing them, techniques for grounding himself when the past threatens to overwhelm him. More than that, she's given him decades of positive memories that balance the traumatic ones, proof that life continues beyond tragedy, that healing is possible even if it's never complete. Luna's own relationship with loss has evolved over the years as well. She still misses her mother, probably always will, but the grief is softer now, more bittersweet than sharp. She's built a life that honors her mother's memory and legacy, pursuing magical research with the same fearless curiosity that cost her mother her life. But Luna is more careful, more considered in her approaches. She takes risks, but calculated ones, aware of the consequences in a way her mother perhaps wasn't. She's made peace with the complexity of loving someone whose choices hurt you, of missing someone while also being angry at them for leaving. Their relationship has deepened into something so fundamental it's hard to articulate. They're not separate people who happen to be together, they're intertwined, their lives so connected after decades together that it's impossible to imagine one without the other. They still disagree sometimes, still get on each other's nerves occasionally, but there's an underlying security that makes those moments insignificant. They know each other completely, have seen each other at their absolute worst and best, and they've chosen to stay, to keep choosing each other, every day for decades. When friends ask them what the secret is to a long, happy marriage, Harry and Luna give different answers. Harry says it's about finding someone who lets you be yourself, who doesn't need you to be anything other than what you are. Luna says it's about maintaining curiosity about your partner, continuing to ask questions and really listen to the answers, refusing to assume you ever completely understand another person. They're both right, and their different perspectives on the same relationship speak to the way they've maintained their individual identities while building a shared life. As they move through their late 60s, they start having more serious conversations about death, not in a morbid way, but practical, honest discussions about what they want, how they want to be remembered, what happens after. Luna is fascinated by death in her typical way, curious about what lies beyond, unafraid of the mystery. Harry is less comfortable with the topic, not afraid exactly, but reluctant to leave, to miss out on watching his grandchildren grow up, to leave Luna alone. They talk about the resurrection stone, which Harry dropped in the Forbidden Forest decades ago. He's never regretted that decision, never been tempted to search for it. The dead are gone, and while he'd love to see his parents, Sirius, Remus, everyone he lost, he knows that life is for the living. Luna agrees, though she admits she's curious about what death actually is, whether consciousness continues in some form or simply ends. They make plans for their funerals, both wanting celebrations rather than somber affairs, gatherings where people share stories and laughter rather than just grief. Health issues start cropping up, as they inevitably do with age. Harry develops arthritis in his hands, legacy of years of spellcasting and the physical demands of Auror training. Luna's hearing starts to deteriorate, and she has to get magical hearing aids that she decorates with tiny painted creatures. They joke about getting old, about bodies that don't work quite like they used to, but there's underlying fear too. The fear of losing each other, of one being left behind, of the independence and capabilities they've taken for granted slowly slipping away. They support each other through these changes, helping with tasks that become difficult, being patient with frustrations and limitations. Their children are attentive and caring, checking in regularly, offering help without being patronizing. Pandora visits weekly, bringing her children and spending afternoons at the cottage. Newt, busy with his healing practice, still makes time to stop by, often bringing medical advice or potions to help with various ailments. Aurora, whose work schedule is unpredictable, visits when she can, always arriving with interesting stories and thoughtful questions. The grandchildren are frequent visitors too, filling the house with noise and energy that both exhausts and delights their grandparents. Harry continues writing, working on a third book, this one more philosophical and reflective. It's about the nature of heroism, about what happens after the quest ends, about building a life in the aftermath of trauma. He draws on his own experiences, but also interviews other war survivors, other people who faced extraordinary circumstances and had to figure out how to live ordinary lives afterward. Luna helps with the research, accompanying him on interviews, offering insights and questions that get to the heart of what he's trying to explore. The book is slower going than his previous work, but it's deeper, more personal, more honest. Luna's research has shifted to mentoring younger scholars, sharing decades of accumulated knowledge with a new generation of magizoologists. She's become a beloved figure in the field, known for her brilliance and also her kindness to students and early career researchers. She hosts regular gatherings at their cottage, bringing together researchers from around the world to share findings and collaborate. Harry loves these gatherings, the house full of passionate people discussing magical creatures, the enthusiasm and wonder that permeates these meetings. It reminds him of the DA, of the power of bringing people together around shared purpose. When Harry turns 70, the family throws a large celebration. It's held at the Burrow, traditional venue for Weasley Potter family gatherings. The party is enormous. Multiple generations of Weasleys, the Potter Lovegood children and grandchildren, old friends from Hogwarts and the DA, colleagues from Harry's various careers. Ron gives a toast that has everyone laughing and crying, reminiscing about their years of friendship, the adventures and misadventures, the way Harry has impacted so many lives. Hermione speaks too, talking about Harry's courage not just in facing Voldemort but in facing his own trauma, in choosing to heal and help others heal. Luna doesn't give a formal speech, but she pulls Harry aside during the party, tells him quietly that loving him has been the greatest adventure of her life, that she'd choose him again in every timeline and universe. Harry kisses her there in the garden, surrounded by celebrating friends and family, feeling overwhelmingly grateful for this life they've built. Their 70s bring more changes and challenges. Harry's nightmares return with more frequency, triggered by his aging and the sense of mortality becoming more immediate. He wakes gasping, reaching for Luna, needing the reassurance of her presence. She's always there, holding him, grounding him, reminding him where he is and when. They talk more about the war during this period, processing things Harry thought he'd dealt with decades ago, but that resurface as he ages. Luna listens with the same patience and understanding she's always brought, never tired of hearing the same stories, understanding that healing isn't linear, that old wounds can reopen. Luna develops some health issues of her own, her heart not quite working as efficiently as it once did. The healers prescribe potions and restrictions on her activities. She's frustrated by the limitations, still wanting to be out in the field doing research, but her body can't keep up with her mind and spirit. Harry worries constantly, watching her carefully for any signs of distress. Their children insist on coming by more frequently, helping with tasks around the house, making sure their parents are managing okay. It's a role reversal that's both touching and a little sad. Children caring for parents who once cared for them. Despite the challenges, there are moments of profound beauty and joy, watching their grandchildren grow and develop their own personalities and talents, seeing their children succeed in their careers and personal lives, sitting together in the garden on warm evenings, holding hands and listening to the creatures moving through the gathering darkness. These moments remind them that aging, while difficult, also brings gifts, perspective and gratitude, and the deep satisfaction of a life well lived. Harry finishes his third book just after his 72nd birthday. It's the one he's most proud of, the most honest and vulnerable thing he's ever written. The reviews are stellar, many calling it the most important book about the war and its aftermath yet written. But Harry cares less about the reviews than about the letters he receives from readers, from people who tell him his words helped them feel less alone, that his honesty about struggle and healing gave them permission to be honest about their own. This feels like the real legacy of his writing. Not the awards or sales, but the human connections. The way his words help others process their own experiences. Luna continues her work as long as her health allows, though she shifts increasingly from active research to theoretical work and synthesis. She publishes a series of papers in her mid-70s that are considered her masterwork, pulling together a lifetime of observation and thought into a comprehensive theory about consciousness and magical creatures. The papers are dense and challenging, but they fundamentally reshape how the field thinks about magical fauna. Scholars will be unpacking and building on her ideas for decades, maybe centuries. Luna herself is less interested in the accolades than in the questions her work opens up, the new directions future researchers might explore. Their grandchildren begin having children of their own, making Harry and Luna great-grandparents. It's strange and wonderful, holding these tiny people who carry their genetic legacy forward into an unknown future. Harry thinks about what the world will be like when these great-grandchildren are grown, what challenges they'll face, what joys they'll experience. He won't be there to see it, probably, but the thought of his family continuing, growing, thriving into a future he can't imagine brings him peace. Luna is delighted by the great-grandchildren, seeing in them endless possibility, the continuation of the strange and beautiful family they've built together. As they enter their late 70s, both Harry and Luna slow down significantly. They spend more time simply being together, less focus on accomplishing things and more on presence and connection. They reread favorite books, watch the seasons change in their garden, receive visitors and enjoy their company. There's a gentleness to this phase of life, a softness that comes from knowing time is limited and choosing to savor what remains. They talk about their life together often, remembering significant moments, laughing about old jokes and mishaps, marveling at how far they've come from those early conversations in the Forbidden Forest. Harry sometimes thinks about the life he might have had, the alternate timelines where he made different choices. What if he'd married Ginny? What if he'd remained an active Auror? What if he'd never really connected with Luna in that way? He can imagine versions of those lives, and they seem fine, good even. But he wouldn't trade the life he has, the family he's built with Luna, the person he's become with her beside him. Whatever challenges and losses they've faced, and there have been many, the core of their relationship has been strong enough to weather everything. That feels like the truest measure of success. Not fame or achievement, but the strength and depth of the love they've shared. Luna, characteristically, doesn't spend much time on what-ifs and alternate timelines. She's focused on the present, on appreciating what is rather than wondering about what might have been. She tells Harry that she believes every choice they made led them exactly where they needed to be, that there's a rightness to their path even with its difficulties. Harry isn't sure he believes in that kind of destiny, but he appreciates Luna's certainty, the way she's always been able to find meaning and purpose even in painful experiences. When Harry turns 80, the celebration is quieter than his 70th. Just immediate family, an intimate gathering at the cottage, His children give speeches, their words full of love and gratitude for the father he's been, the example he's set. His grandchildren share memories, funny stories, and touching moments that make Harry realize how much of his life has been witnessed and remembered by others. Aurora, now herself in her 50s, talks about watching her parents' relationship over the decades, how it taught her what love could be, partnership and mutual respect, and the freedom to be fully yourself. Harry cries through most of the speeches, overwhelmed by emotion and love and the bittersweet awareness that time is running out. Luna's health declines more noticeably in the next few years. Her heart condition worsens, and she's hospitalized several times. The family rallies around her, making sure she's never alone, that Harry isn't bearing the burden of her care by himself. During one of her hospital stays, Luna tells Harry that she's not afraid of dying, that she's lived a full life and is curious about what comes next. Harry, holding her hand, tells her he's not ready to let her go, that he needs her too much. Luna smiles and says that need isn't a good reason to keep someone alive, that love means being willing to let go when the time comes. It's a difficult conversation, but one they need to have. Luna makes it home from that hospitalization, but it's clear she's declining. The family knows they're entering the final phase, and they gather around, wanting to spend as much time with her as possible. Luna's last weeks are spent surrounded by her children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren, the house full of the family she and Harry created together. She's mostly peaceful, occasionally confused, but more often simply tired. Harry barely leaves her side, lying next to her in their bed, holding her hand, sometimes talking and sometimes just being present. On a quiet spring evening, very much like the one when they first kissed decades ago, Luna passes away in her sleep with Harry beside her. One moment she's breathing, the next she's simply gone, the life leaving her body so gently that Harry almost doesn't realize it's happened. When he does, the grief hits him like a physical blow. His Luna, his partner, his love gone. The world feels immediately emptier, colder, wrong without her in it. Their children come quickly, and the house fills with tears and embraces and the particular hollow feeling of new loss. The funeral is exactly what Luna wanted. A celebration held in the clearing in the forbidden forest where they were married. The thestrals are there, visible now to many more people than saw them at the wedding, a reminder of shared mortality. People speak about Luna's life, her research, her kindness, her unique way of seeing the world. Pandora talks about her mother's unwavering support, how Luna taught her that being different was a gift. Newt speaks about his mother's compassion, how she extended kindness to all creatures regardless of how others viewed them. Aurora talks about her mother's courage, the way Luna never let others' opinions limit what she believed or pursued. Harry doesn't speak at the funeral, not trusting himself to get through it. But he writes something that Hermione reads for him, a tribute to Luna that captures their decades together. The way she changed him, the life they built. His words make people cry and laugh, painting a picture of a relationship that was both ordinary in its daily details and extraordinary in its depth. He talks about how Luna taught him that surviving isn't the same as living, that there's magic everywhere if you know how to look, that love doesn't fix you, but it can help you heal. He ends by saying that he's grateful for every day they had together, that even knowing the pain of losing her, he wouldn't trade a single moment of their time together. The weeks and months after Luna's death are the hardest of Harry's life, harder even than the immediate aftermath of the war. He's lost people before, many people, but losing Luna is different. She was his partner for over half a century, the person who knew him best, who made him feel truly seen and understood. Without her, he feels incomplete, adrift. His children and grandchildren try to support him, visiting frequently, including him in family activities. But there's a loneliness that can't be filled by anyone else, the specific Luna-shaped absence in his life. Harry finds himself talking to Luna sometimes, telling her about his day, asking her opinion on things. He knows she's gone, that she can't actually hear him, but it helps him process her absence. He walks in the garden she created, tending the plants and creatures, feeling close to her there. He reads her research papers, marveling again at her brilliant mind. He looks through photo albums, thousands of pictures documenting their life together, and he cries and laughs in equal measure at the memories they evoke. Gradually, very gradually, the sharp edges of grief soften into something he can live with. The pain doesn't disappear, probably never will, but it becomes more manageable. He finds ways to honor Luna's memory, establishing a scholarship in her name for students pursuing unconventional magical research, donating her papers and specimens to form the foundation of a new research institute. He finishes organizing her final manuscripts for posthumous publication, making sure her last contributions to the field reach the audience they deserve. Harry lives for another 3 years after Luna's death. They're quiet years, marked by increasing frailty and a sense of winding down. He's not unhappy exactly, but he's ready when his time comes. He's lived a long life, longer than he ever expected during the war, and he's done things he's proud of. He's loved deeply and been loved in return. He's raised children who are kind and capable and who've gone on to raise their own families. He's contributed to making the magical world more just and compassionate. As legacies go, it's a good one. When Harry dies peacefully in his sleep at 83, the magical world mourns, but also celebrates. His obituaries talk about him as the boy who lived, but they also talk about the man he became, the teacher, reformer, author, husband, father, grandfather. His funeral is a massive affair, attended by people from all over the magical world. But there's also a small private ceremony, just for family, where his children and grandchildren share their memories of Harry, not as a hero, but as a father and grandfather, flawed and loving and human. Harry is buried next to Luna in the clearing where they married, where her funeral was held. His children make sure the grave markers are simple, just their names and dates, nothing about the boy who lived or famous researchers. That's how Harry and Luna would have wanted it, remembered as themselves, not their accomplishments. The Thestrals continue to visit the clearing as if paying respects to the two humans who understood them so well. The impact of Harry and Luna's life together ripples forward through generations. Their children carry forward their values, raising their own children with the same emphasis on curiosity, kindness, and critical thinking. Pandora's work combining art and magical creature education becomes standard in schools, making learning more engaging and accessible. Newt's holistic approach to healing revolutionizes St. Mungo's, creating better outcomes for patients and establishing the importance of treating psychological trauma alongside physical injury. Aurora's research at the Department of Mysteries, while mostly classified, leads to breakthroughs in understanding fundamental magical principles. The grandchildren and great-grandchildren inherit this legacy too. Growing up with stories of their remarkable grandparents, learning from their example, some pursue careers in magical creatures or law enforcement or education, directly following in Harry and Luna's footsteps. Others forge completely different paths, but all carry forward the core lessons. Be yourself, question everything, treat all beings with respect, never stop learning, build something meaningful with the time you have. The Potter Lovegood Foundation continues for decades after both Harry and Luna are gone, supporting the kinds of unconventional research and approaches that they championed. The scholarship program Luna established helps dozens of students pursue research that might otherwise never happen. The Auror training reforms Harry implemented become so standard that new generations of Aurors don't even realize how different things were before. Luna's books remain essential reading for anyone studying magical creatures, her insights as fresh and relevant decades after her death as they were when first published. The magical world is measurably different because Harry married Luna Lovegood instead of Ginny Weasley. It's more accepting of difference, more willing to question tradition, more compassionate toward magical creatures. Mental health support for trauma survivors is normalized, in large part due to Harry's openness about his own struggles. Creature rights have advanced significantly thanks to Luna's tireless research and advocacy. The next generation of magical law enforcement is more ethical and thoughtful, trained in methods Harry developed. These aren't dramatic, flashy changes. They're quiet, systemic shifts that make the magical world incrementally better. But perhaps the most significant impact is harder to quantify. It's the countless individual witches and wizards who felt less alone, more empowered to be themselves, because they saw Harry and Luna's example. The students who pursued unconventional interests because Luna showed them it was possible. The parents who raised their children with more acceptance and less pressure to conform because they saw how the Potter Lovegood children thrived. The couples who built partnerships based on mutual respect and individual growth because they witnessed what Harry and Luna created together. In the end, what if Harry had married Luna Lovegood? The wizarding world gained a powerful example of what love looks like when it's built on genuine understanding and mutual respect rather than passion and drama. It gained a model for how to build a meaningful life after trauma, how to take the broken pieces of yourself and create something beautiful. It gained advocates who quietly but persistently worked to make magical society more just, more curious, more compassionate. And 3 extraordinary children were born who might not have existed otherwise, each making their own contributions to making the magical world better. Harry gained a partner who let him be fully himself, who helped him heal without trying to fix him, who showed him that magic wasn't just about fighting darkness, but about seeing wonder in everyday things. He got to build a family not based on trying to recreate what he never had, but on creating something entirely new. He found peace, not the absence of pain, but the presence of meaning and love sufficient to make the pain bearable. He got to grow old with someone who knew him completely and loved him anyway, who challenged him and supported him and made him laugh. He got decades of partnership and companionship, 3 children and multiple grandchildren, a life that was rich and full despite its challenges. Luna gained someone who took her seriously, who valued her insights and supported her research, who never tried to make her more normal or conventional. She got a partner who understood loss and grief in the same bone-deep way she did, who could sit with difficult emotions without trying to rush through them. She got to pursue her life's work with the security of knowing she had someone to come home to, someone who believed in her even when her theories seemed ridiculous to everyone else. She got to be a mother, to pass on her love of magical creatures and wonder to the next generation. She got to build a life that honored her mother's memory while also being distinctly her own. Their children gained parents who modeled healthy partnership, who showed them that disagreement doesn't have to be destructive, that love means supporting each other's growth and independence. They learned that being different is valuable, that questioning authority is sometimes necessary, that kindness and curiosity matter more than conformity. They saw firsthand that trauma doesn't have to define you, that healing is possible even if it's never complete. They grew up feeling loved and accepted exactly as they were, without pressure to be anyone other than themselves. This foundation allowed them to become the remarkable adults they are, confident and compassionate and unafraid to forge their own paths. The magical world lost the timeline where Harry and Ginny raised their children together, where James Sirius and Albus Severus and Lily Luna Potter grew up. That's not insignificant. Those children would have been loved and would have made their own contributions. Ginny found happiness with someone else in this timeline. But there's a loss in the relationship that never fully developed with Harry. The dynamic of the Potter-Weasley family is different, slightly more distant, without Harry as a son-in-law and brother-in-law in the most intimate sense. But gains and losses are part of every choice, every path not taken. In this timeline, Harry chose healing over passion, chose someone who understood his wounds over someone who represented the normal life he never had. It wasn't the choice people expected, wasn't the obvious or conventional path, but it was the right choice for this Harry, the one who needed acceptance more than excitement, who needed space to be broken rather than pressure to be whole. So what if Harry Potter had married Luna Lovegood instead of Ginny Weasley? The answer is complex, full of both beauty and loss, gains and costs. But ultimately, it's a story about choosing authenticity over expectation, about building a life based on genuine connection rather than what others think should happen. It's about 2 people who understood each other in fundamental ways, creating a partnership that was both stable and adventurous, conventional and unconventional, ordinary and extraordinary. It's a reminder that there are many ways to find happiness, many ways to heal, many ways to live a meaningful life, that the most unlikely pairings can sometimes create the most profound magic, that love doesn't have to look a certain way to be real and lasting and transformative, that sometimes the greatest adventures aren't the ones involving dark wizards and prophecies, but the quiet daily choice to show up for another person, to build a life together day by day, to choose each other over and over across decades. Harry and Luna's story in this timeline is one of acceptance, wonder, and the revolutionary act of being fully yourself with another person who loves you for it. It's the story of 2 people who saw the world differently, learning to navigate it together, supporting each other's strangeness while building something stable and lasting. It's the story of choosing partnership over passion, understanding over intensity, peace over excitement. And in choosing that path, they created something beautiful that rippled outward, touching countless lives and making the magical world incrementally more accepting, more curious, more kind. It wouldn't have been the story everyone expected for the boy who lived, but perhaps it would have been the story he needed. The one where he finally learned that being a hero isn't about grand gestures and dramatic sacrifices. It's about showing up every day with honesty and courage and compassion. Where he learned that the greatest magic isn't in defeating dark wizards, but in choosing to see wonder in the everyday, in building connections that last, in loving and being loved despite and because of all your broken pieces. Where he learned that surviving the war was just the beginning, and that learning to truly live afterward was its own kind of heroism, requiring its own kind of courage. And in the end, isn't that what we all hope for? Not to be perfect or heroic in grand ways, but to be seen and loved for who we truly are. To find someone who makes us better without requiring us to be different. To build a life that's meaningful and full of wonder, despite its inevitable difficulties. Harry and Luna found that together, and in doing so, they showed others that it was possible. That's magic of the deepest, truest kind, the kind that changes not just individual lives, but the world itself, quietly but profoundly. One choice, one day, one act of love at a time. And perhaps that's the greatest legacy anyone could hope for, not fame or glory, but evidence that love and wonder and authentic connection are possible, that building a beautiful life from broken pieces is not just possible but worthwhile, that in the end, choosing to be yourself and finding someone who loves you for it is its own kind of happily ever after.